Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's town hall with the Premier of Nova Scotia, Tim Houston. My name is Clayla Perot, and I'll be your moderator. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you can expect this evening, as I know many of you are likely joining us for the first time. Earlier this evening, several Nova Scotians received an invitation to join our conversation by phone. Those who have received an invitation and have chosen to participate will have the opportunity to ask a question to our Premier directly. If you are participating by phone and you would like to ask a question, please make sure you hit *3 to be added to the queue. We are broadcasting live on the Nova Scotia Government Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel. Those of you who are viewing on Facebook or YouTube also have the opportunity to participate. You just have to email your questions to nstownhall@novascotia.ca. I think that just about covers everything. So settle in, get comfortable, and we'll answer as many questions as we can in the time that we have together. So for those of you who are joining on the phone, now is the time to hit *3 to ask the Premier your questions. But before we get started, Premier, is there anything you'd like to share with Nova Scotians?
Yes, there is. Thanks so much. Hey, folks, thanks for joining us tonight. Looking forward to chatting and taking your questions. Press *3 if you'd like to ask a question. This has certainly been a historic day for our province. Today we tabled the Budget 24-25. It's called Building Nova Scotia Faster. Our province is growing quickly, and our government feels the urgency to keep building up Nova Scotia. So that means investing more in healthcare facilities. It means investing more in housing and, of course, roads. And most importantly, it means putting more money in your pockets. The budget included the largest tax cut in Nova Scotia's history. The cost of living has become top of mind for people as we experience some of the highest increases in inflation in 30 years. The number one ask by Nova Scotians in this year's budget consultation process was for tax relief. Well, you're going to get it. Starting January 1st, 2025, Nova Scotians will feel income tax relief when they see less money coming off their paychecks, so more of it can land in their pockets. Provincial income tax brackets will be indexed. The basic personal amount will also be indexed. And several non-refundable tax credits will be indexed as well to lower the income taxes that people will have to pay. So this means more for you. Another big item announced today in the budget that will help families is our new school lunch program. We know that good nutrition is foundational for a child's learning and well-being, and that the cost of food is placing additional pressure on many families. So this fall, we will launch the first ever province-wide school lunch program. The school lunch program will ensure that children have access to healthy, nutritious food, which will lead to a better learning environment. Nova Scotia children deserve to have a strong start in life. So this budget invests in several approaches to get Nova Scotians more support. We know that many people suffer from chronic illness, and one of the most common is diabetes. This budget will help many Nova Scotians living with diabetes better manage their disease and save them money. With a over $7 million investment this year, Nova Scotia will help cover the cost of sensor-based glucose monitors and remove the age cap for the insulin pump program. These are significant investments in Nova Scotia, especially when you consider that a person living with diabetes can pay up to $4,000 per year for sensor-based glucose monitoring and over $6,000 for an insulin pump and could be another $4,000 on top of that for supplies. So this is an important investment in the health of more than 4,000 Nova Scotians. Diabetes can be a life-changing experience. It can severely impact quality of life. So the cost of equipment and supplies to manage diabetes can be in the thousands, as we talked about, and it's not like you can just do without. You need them. So that's why we've earmarked over $7 million in this budget to support those living with diabetes. And it's almost $6 million of that will cover or offset the cost of the sensor-based glucose monitoring supplies for people with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. We're setting up a new income-based program to monitor to manage this program, and coverage will also be available through our existing PharmaCare program. So this is long overdue in our province. many Nova Scotians living with diabetes will no longer have to prick their fingers multiple times a day, a process that can be uncomfortable and painful, especially for children and younger people. So instead, the sensor-based glucose monitor will be accessible, and it can show people right on their smartphone their glucose levels. So this is extremely helpful for families with children and youth, but it's helpful for all Nova Scotians. More healthcare faster and in the palm of your hands. We are also expanding the Nova Scotia insulin pump program, as I mentioned, so by removing the age cap. So if you're 26 and older, you'll soon be able to apply for this program. And there are over 100,000 Nova Scotians impacted and living with diabetes, so this will help them. Our budget is filled with items that can help Nova Scotians and will help Nova Scotians, whether it's investments in healthcare, investments in education, investments in housing, investments in Nova Scotians that will lead to more money in your pocket. So I look forward to talking with you tonight and answering your questions about any of these programs or just really anything on your mind. So let's hear from you. Happy to take your questions. If you have a question, press *3, and we'll look forward to the opportunity to chat. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Premier. We are going to get started with questions now. And up first, we have Harris from Antigonish, who has a question about amalgamation.
Yes. This week, your government introduced legislation to combine the Antigonish town and Antigonish County, and the people of Antigonish County voted 77% on an online poll conducted by a polling firm out of Ontario, and you defended your Pictou County in 2018. We won a plebiscite, and we didn't get one. What's the reason for amalgamation when so many people didn't want it? There was 4,200 signatures on a petition, and yet you ignored that.
Well, thank you, Harris, and certainly we always listen carefully to Nova Scotians, and I can definitely appreciate that this is an emotional issue for some residents, and I understand that, and certainly take that very seriously. So a couple of things. In Antigonish, we have 2 municipal councils that voted on a motion to ask the province to do this. So the 2 councils voted in favor of this. It was then taken to court. A citizen group took it to the courts and asked the courts if those councils had the jurisdiction to do that. Were they even able to do that? And the court said yes, they were. So after that, after the court decision, it came back to the province, and we essentially said, look, folks, there's a lot of water under the bridge here. Do you still want to proceed according to the original motions? And would you evidence that by another new vote of your 2 elected municipal councils, which they did. So we had 2 councils that both voted in favor of the same motion twice, and plus the courts saying that they have the authority to do this. So in Pictou County, you mentioned the Pictou County situation before. In Pictou County, 5 municipal councils, none of them voted to ask the province to do any sort of amalgamation or consolidation. So in Antigonish, you had 2 counties that both voted for the same thing twice, and in Pictou County, the councils never voted to ask for that. They voted on discussions about an MOU and a process. So they followed a different process. It's a different situation. So as a provincial government, we have motions that are in order and complete, and voted in favor by the municipal council, and in our democracy, the elected council is the voice of the people. So when those councils vote for that, as a provincial government, we have to respect that. And in this case, it also has the court decision that said they're basically allowed to do it. So I know it's an emotional topic, but certainly we have the council motions that have been voted on twice, and the courts, and we respect the elected bodies within the province. That's how our democracy works. We don't always like the decisions elected officials make, but they're duly elected, and they're elected to make decisions. So I certainly appreciate you raising this tonight, Harris, and I know there's lots of people that are interested in this, and it's an extremely serious issue. But I hope that kind of clarifies for you a little bit of my perspective as a provincial premier.
Thank you, Premier. Next, we are going to go to Margie, who's joining us from Cape Breton and has a question about the education system. Margie?
How are you doing, Premier Houston?
I'm doing good, Margie. Thanks for joining us tonight.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to get a chance to talk to you because I've tried to reach you through your office on numerous times, and all you get is, we have increased volume of da-da-da-da-da, we'll get back to you, so we never do. So anyway, I'm glad to get on with you and speak to you tonight. Well, I'm speaking as a retired teacher, a happy retired teacher. I've been out 10 years ago now, but my concern is I hear that, we're looking at the government, your government is looking at finding new teachers to fill the role as an educator in these classrooms. My concern is we have a disabled education system. Kids aren't reading and writing. Kids can't think. They're on their calculators, anything but. Test scores are proving, and it's come out that, we are failing our children. And my concern is if you're going to hire new teachers, what are you going to do about, one, unruly behavior in the classroom, unruly behavior on school buses? Just ask any of them and ask them to speak about it. Visit these schools. We have a problem. We're not getting kids at A+. We're lucky to get kids at D, the way things are going, and we need to do something to fix it.
Well, thank you, Margie, and I'm certainly glad we have this chance to chat tonight for sure, and I'll take your concerns about the system to reach me seriously and talk to the team on that for sure, but I'm glad we're here tonight. So a couple of things. Absolutely, the investments that we make in our education system are incredibly important for the future of our province. We talk about building up Nova Scotia and moving forward. We can't do that without an education, strong education system and an educated workforce and graduates that are prepared for the world. So this is incredibly important, and I share your concerns. And in this year's budget alone, I think it's somewhere in the range of $30 million more for our public schools to address issues around growing enrollment because our population is growing, and as you say, hire more teachers. So recruitment of new teachers, retention of teachers. These are fundamental focuses of the system, and you can't recruit unless you can retain. So they go hand in hand. So a couple of things I would say. Minister Drouin, Education Minister, often attends staff meetings with staff in schools to hear directly from them. So you mentioned get out there and get in the schools. I mean, I personally do that for sure. I had a chance to drop into a school just 2 weeks ago and speak to some kids, and I try to do that as much as I can. But Minister Drouin has done somewhere in the range of 60 educational staff meetings with school staff. So this is a really important connection from the minister to the front lines that is incredibly important. Also, the people working in the Department of Education, we've asked them to also get into the schools and leave the office, as it were, and get in the schools and be connected to those on the front line so we can actually understand and be engaged with what's happening there. And that is actually I think I would be fair to say that that's exceeding expectations. It's actually having more positive outcomes than we even would have dreamed. Just those simple connections of simple listening. But absolutely, there the issues that you talk about around discipline. Also, let's put attendance in there. Let's put issues that I hear from teachers around just the disruption from students that are late or leave early. So all of these things are real issues on the front lines, and we're always looking at ways we can work with teachers across the province. Right? We put out a call to educators, people working in the school system, last year for ideas. What are things that you think we should be doing in the education system? And there are a number of pilot projects that kind of came from the front lines of, hey, why don't we do this? And we say, yeah, why don't we? So we're trying it in a classroom, in a school, in a certain area. And there's a number of those. So I would say to you, I share your concern. And we are focused on it, and happy to have further discussion with you and maybe share with you, Margie, some of the pilot projects that are happening, and get your thoughts on how those might impact. We'll look for a way to get that out there. But through all of this, we know that kids can't learn when they're hungry, and that's why I'm proud today that this budget will include a school lunch program under this program as we roll it out starting in the fall. Every student in the province in grade 5 and under, as we start and ramp it up, or grades 5 and under in the initial instance, will have access to affordable lunch, free where necessary, but certainly an affordable lunch. So this school lunch program is a major step forward in supporting families and supporting students and also their teachers. So, look, I take your point on the importance of education, and both of my children are products of the public school system in Nova Scotia, and they had great teachers all the way through and great experiences. And I want that for all Nova Scotians, to support the teachers who are in the classrooms, but to support the students and their families as well. So I'm really glad you raised that, Margie, and we'll look forward to furthering that discussion with you. But thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Premier. Before we move to our next question, just a reminder to anybody that's been invited to join over the phones to dial *3 now to be added to the queue to ask your question. Now we're going to Doug Kopp calling in from Sydney, who has a question about Nova Scotia Power. Doug, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Premier.
Hi,
Doug. When the Power Corporation, you may or may not be aware of this, but years ago when the Nova Scotia Power Corporation was taken away from being a public utility and essentially given to some financial backers for one of the political parties, we, since then, have had the highest electrical rates of anywhere in the Americas. And having checked on it, I found out that they used the extra money they gouged out of us to buy 17 more power companies in New England and in the Caribbean. Now, I haven't checked on that for a couple of years to see if we're actually still the highest in all the Americas, but we are being gouged to a level of, I'll just give you an example. I went to see a friend of mine in Marin Desert Hot Springs, California, and I was waiting for him, and I went into this room just to hang out while he had a few more minutes to go, and there's some political activists there, and they were complaining about their electric bill. And I asked this woman how much she paid, and she said, in California, $58 a month. I just about died because my last electric bill was $2,200. So I've complained about this for 10 years, and everybody seems to just turn their head and ignore it. What do you think about it, and can you possibly do something about it?
Yeah, well, look, thank you, Doug. This is an incredibly important issue for sure. Nova Scotia ratepayers deserve clean, reliable, affordable electricity. So we're not turning our head away from this one. You know, we've had some pretty public disputes over the price of electricity in this province, and we are certainly we will do everything we possibly can to support the ratepayers of this province. So we know that bold changes are needed to the electrical system. And last session, we introduced some legislation that really prevented what would have been double-digit rate hikes at the time. Rates still went up, but I think we were able to mitigate that a little bit. Yesterday, we introduced some pretty significant legislation that's incredibly important for the future of energy rates in this province, and it actually does a couple of things. One, the UARB, which is the rate setting agency in the province, does a lot of things today. They do everything from bus schedules and bus routes to power rates. We think that's a little bit too much, so we're going to create a new arm of that, which will be just focused on energy rates. This will be the Nova Scotia Energy Board, and it will be just completely focused on using expertise to look at the rates and in the province. And another thing it does is it's about the system for managing the energy that goes on the grid. Nova Scotia Power has been the manager of that. So this is when they need power in one area, they turn on this and they turn on something else, and they kind of manage where the electricity is coming from. We think that should be an independent body, and if it's an independent body that manages the system, then there'll be more opportunities for other producers of energy to get onto the system. So that's just yesterday. That's working its way through the legislature right now. So I assure you, we're not turning our head. We're very focused on. We know that the cost of energy is a real issue for some of our companies to be competitive, but certainly for Nova Scotians that are just trying to get by. And I guess the final thing I wanted to say is the grid in California would be certainly different than Nova Scotia. Obviously, they'd have a lot more solar opportunities, as an example. In Nova Scotia, we also have significant opportunities that have been untapped. We have incredible wind speeds, offshore wind speeds, onshore wind speeds. They are incredible. They are world-class. The wind blows a lot in Nova Scotia, so the potential future around wind energy in this province is very significant, but also tidal. We have the Bay of Fundy. Like, if you took every river in the world and added them together, you may come close to the strength of the Bay of Fundy at the changing of the tides. That is an incredible resource for energy production. It is untapped. And once we get to the point where we are capitalizing on our wind assets and our tidal and hydro assets, then we can really get going on the production of green hydrogen. And that would be, we can be a worldwide energy powerhouse. We actually have that potential. Our government's been focused on that. But today we all have power bills and we got to pay them. So until we get there, we're on fossil fuels. And the way that the rate setting works in the province is that, the utility will go to the board and they would say, this is what we expect it'll cost us to buy what we need in terms of coal and other inputs, and they'll set the rate. And then at the end of the year, they look at what it actually cost and they true it up. The ratepayers will true it up as necessary. And with the way commodity prices have been, the true up that's necessary from the ratepayers is very, very significant. And this year, it was over $100 million. And if that would have just went right through, that could increase your power bill just on that true up, just on that catch up, by about 7%. It could impact the industrial rate for companies that are trying to be competitive by up to 13%. We can't allow that to happen. That's why, as a province, we've stepped in. We have our own application before the UARB that says instead of whacking the ratepayers with that true up in one foul swoop, we would finance it and smooth it over 10 years so we don't have that shock. So, look, I just want you to know that I hear you. We're not turning our head in any way, shape, or form. It's a difficult nut to crack, but we got a big hammer that we're trying to crack it with, and as you can see from a number of different aspects. But we'll do what we can. We won't always be as successful as we want, but I assure you it will not be from lack of effort. But I really appreciate you putting that on the table tonight, Doug.
Thank you, Premier. Some really important topics being discussed this evening. Next, we are going to go to our emails and answer a question there. So, Premier, we had Anne reach out, and she is looking for a comment on the decision not to proclaim the Coastal Protection Act.
Yeah, thank you, Anne, for this important question as well. So, look, we there's not many things that Nova Scotians hold more near and dear than their coastline. We have a beautiful province, incredible province, all of this beauty that we have. surrounded by 13,000 kilometers of coastline, incredible beaches, cliffs, hiking trails. We have it all. We have a lot of coastline, and we as Nova Scotians, we care very deeply about our coastline. That's the kind of the Blue Noser way. So we're concerned about climate change. We're concerned about the impact on our coastline, and we want action. So there's a couple ways that action can take place. So one is a piece of legislation, and there was a bill that had gone through the House. It hadn't been proclaimed, so it hadn't been kind of pushed right over the line. That's one way to do it. But there are other ways as well. And we've decided after consultation and many discussions and from listening to Nova Scotians that the legislation that was before the House was I would say a bit of a blunt instrument for very diverse coastlines around the province. You need to be more granular in your approach in certain areas. The coast in one area is not the same as maybe the coast 300 feet down the shore. So that's one consideration. The other consideration is since Nova Scotians care about our coastline, they want to do what they can. They want to make the right decisions. So we've kind of focused not on the legislation, but we've really focused on working with Nova Scotians and making sure that they have the tools and the resources to help them make informed decisions. I trust that they'll make informed decisions, but we need to make sure that they have appropriate information on how they can adapt to climate change. So we came out with a map. People can go on this map. Maybe we can stick the URL in the comments at some point, but put their address in and see like a projection out as to what at the turn of the century what it might look like in the coastline, in terms of flooding and stuff like this. So I would just say that we have a very detailed climate plan. We passed legislation in this province. The Environmental Goals and Climate Change Reduction Act legislates a number of climate targets. So the climate is changing. We all recognize that. We all care about protecting our climate, our planet for future generations. We all care about protecting our coastline. But at this particular point in time, we've made the decision that we will work with the municipalities, we will work with Nova Scotians to rethink really how communities are designed with the climate change plan in mind. And we believe that where we've landed on this is a practical, realistic way forward that recognizes the need to protect our coastal areas, recognizes the need to adapt to climate change, but just do it in a way that involves trusting Nova Scotians and working with them. So we won't be proclaiming that piece of legislation, but we put forward a very detailed suite of information and resources, and we're going to work with the municipalities and Nova Scotians on that. But I really appreciate you raising that tonight, Anne.
Okay, and moving back to the phones, we now have JP from Kentville, who has a question about tax relief. JP, if you'd like to go ahead.
Hi there. Good evening, Mr. Houston. I hope you're doing well, and I personally thank you on behalf of all Nova Scotians to be available tonight for everybody and all their questions. My question would be towards especially middle-class families. My family falls a little bit higher than middle class, and I'm just trying to picture all the families, how hard it would be sometimes with the cost of living. Basically, I make up around the $4,000 mark on a pension, a federal pension due to military injury, and it's basically gone within a day due to my $3,000 monthly rent. Is there anything part of the 24 and 25 budget that would be targeting especially middle-class families? I know there's a lot of Nova Scotians are quite concerned.
Yeah, thank you, JP, for calling in, and thank you for your service to our country. Much appreciated. I come from military family myself, and I was very, very proud of my father's service. So thank you for your service, and thank you for your really concern for your community. That is also the Nova Scotian way for sure. I guess what I'm most proud of in the budget that kind of speaks exactly to the concern you're flagging about just affordability in general and supporting Nova Scotians. The thing I'm most proud of would be the income, the indexing of the personal income tax brackets. And also the exemptions. And what that means is that the personal income tax brackets will move up, with inflation. So as the bracket moves up, it means that it gives you a higher range where you're paying at the lower rate before you go up into the next bracket. So this is a form of tax relief that will benefit every single Nova Scotian that files a tax return. Every single tax filer in the province will benefit from this form of tax relief. So it's effective January 1st. I would have liked it to be effective a little earlier, if I'm being frank. But there are many moving parts and relationships with the CRA and timelines to get all the systems in place. But from a practical purpose, what it means is that on January 1st, those paychecks starting in January, there'll be less tax coming off. And if there's less tax coming off, there'll be more that's left over to go in the hands and pockets of Nova Scotians. So this is a broad-based tax relief, and I think what I would say on that is, during the 2021 election, I was very clear with Nova Scotians that we were going to invest in Nova Scotians, we're going to invest in healthcare, we're going to invest in the things that mattered to Nova Scotians, and that it was time to invest in infrastructure, roads, all these things. And whenever I was asked about, well, can you do something with the taxes, I was always very clear that it wasn't. When we could afford it, we would, but it wasn't something that I would see kind of in the first 3 or 4 years. But actually, here we are, our third budget, and we've managed to do it because the economy is growing, because we know that it's necessary, but we can do it. So this indexing, when it starts, indexing the bracket itself and the personal exemption, and certain other non-refundable tax credits too, they're all going to be indexed. And when that happens, and once they take root over a couple of years, these measures alone will be quite clearly seen as the largest tax break in the province's history. And a couple years out, when you look at the forecast, that means that Nova Scotians would save somewhere in the range of $150 to $160 million a year that they're not paying in taxes, that remains in their pockets. And I long for those days. But that is, you ask it, what's the broadest range that helps the most people? I think that will help a significant amount of people. And then, of course, the school lunch program for those that have school-aged children. That'll be a huge support for those families. So we'll make sure that we every time we get an opportunity to invest in Nova Scotians, we'll do that. But this indexing on the income tax and this form of tax relief is very broad, and I'm happy we were able to finally do it in Nova Scotia.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Premier. We're next going to go to Gordon, who's calling in from Halifax. Gordon, please go ahead with your question.
Yes. First, thank you, Premier, for doing these town halls. They're really a great source of information for us and probably for you. I have just a two-part question, I guess. First is the COVID-19 test. My test little kit is expired in January. Is it still possible to get those through the libraries or other sources? And the second part of the question, a little different, is I do support your budget, very, very good, and all of the parts in it. However, the Auditor General was not too supportive with their comments, and I wonder if you might just comment on the fact that the Auditor General didn't like the amount of the deficit in your budget. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Gordon, for reaching out. And yes, I assure you, I do learn a lot from these. It's definitely a two-way street. So I'm hopeful that they're helpful to Nova Scotians, but they're definitely helpful to me. So thank you for that. In terms of the COVID test kits, they're still available for sure. A couple different options on that. Reach out to your MLA office. They may, I know we have some in my office, but I'm sure others do as well. So I would start by reaching out to your MLA. Also available in some libraries as well. So they're still around. So hopefully you'll be able to find one. And I appreciate your attention on that and your focus on that. We value the work of the Auditor General for sure. I'm a FCPA, a trained accountant, so I have great respect for the work of the Auditor General. But there are times where we disagree with the Auditor General, and certainly the Auditor General has raised a concern in the past about investments that are made by the province that are outside the budget period. So we're tabling a budget today, but outside of this budget period, there may be other investments that we need to make that are what they would call unappropriated expenditures, investments. So listen, these are types of investments that are certainly clearly allowed for in the Finance Act, and the reason that the Finance Act allows for them is just simply because at times they're necessary. So if we have a natural disaster, we've had our share in this province for sure with the fires and Hurricane Fiona and the floods and the snowstorms now. But certainly things happen. And as a government, you need to be responsive. So imagine if when we're trying to respond to a disaster like that, and we want to come up with a program, we had a program for spoiled foods. We've had different types of programs to support people through these times that are urgent things. Government has to have the ability to govern and make those decisions and move forward. So this is why they're allowed in the Finance Act, and they're just times that it's necessary. But I assure you, when that happens, there's a full accounting. There's press releases. They show up in the financial statements. They are absolutely subject to much scrutiny by Nova Scotians, by opposition members, by media. It's very clear and transparent. But there are just times when government needs to govern, and they need to be responsive, and they need to do something quickly. And when Nova Scotians elect their government, they expect them to do just that. So when we have opportunities, so we've tabled a budget today. If things change a month from now, when this budget is passed, and there is an opportunity to invest in Nova Scotians because of some change in circumstances, maybe more revenue, maybe who knows. If that comes up and there's a chance for us to invest in healthcare, we'll do it. If there's a chance for us to invest in housing, we'll do it. We will invest in Nova Scotians every time we can, as soon as we can. And if there's something comes up that requires an investment, it's just something that happens, a response to a natural disaster or an immediate crisis that unfolds that requires the government to act, we'll do it then as well. That's my commitment to Nova Scotians. Every time we can invest in Nova Scotians, we will do it. And I certainly apologize to the Auditor General if that's not what they would like to see happen. But my focus is only on Nova Scotians and investing in Nova Scotians, and we'll make sure we're clear and transparent on that. But in terms of the budget today, it's a great budget for building Nova Scotia, for investing in Nova Scotians, almost over $16 billion of investments. Every single one of those dollars invested in Nova Scotians. All those estimates would have been cleared through the Auditor General, and the Auditor General would have signed off on the budget today. But I think you were referring to the additional appropriations on that. But I hope that helps clarify. Appreciate you reaching out tonight.
Thank you, Premier. It is now time to go back to our emails for a question. So we're going to go to a question that was asked by PJ. And PJ has a question about an announcement that was made a few weeks ago regarding training teachers faster. Their question is about a timeline for enrollment and what universities will be opening spaces for training.
PJ, thank you for asking this. And of course, we spoke with Margie earlier in the town hall about the recruitment of teachers and the retention of teachers, and certainly we know we need more teachers in the education system for sure, and so we've been working with post-secondary institutions on how do we get properly trained teachers in the classroom quicker. So there's a couple of streams that's pathways, I guess, to accelerated Bachelor of Education programs. There's an accelerated Bachelor of Education program at Cape Breton University. This will help get more teachers into Nova Scotia's classrooms faster. That particular program will I think it's I want to say it's 18 months that program, but it's certainly an accelerated path to it. So that's at CBU. There's various pilots around getting people their Bachelor of Education quicker. We did also just recently talk about a quicker pathway to get into the Bachelor of Education. It would normally require a full undergrad degree. We've talked about allowing people to enter into the education program after 2 years of their undergrad, so not the full time. We are working with the universities on that. There's a good cooperative atmosphere there to make that happen. I'm not sure if that will be fully launched at all institutions by September, but it is definitely an ongoing discussion. But the bottom line is we want people to in the classrooms teaching, but we want them to be fully trained, and that's why even in that second instance, we're not changing the Bachelor of Education. We're not asking anyone to change the length, their program, but we are asking them to kind of be more realistic on how much education somebody needs before they go into the program. So I'm going to call this the work in progress. These are ongoing discussions, so I don't have a specific answer for you on exactly which institutions would have that application stream open, but as a general concept and a directional policy, we want teachers in the classroom, but we absolutely know they have to be properly trained and prepared, but we're looking for ways to make that happen quicker.
Thank you, Premier. It is now time to go to our final question this evening. We're going to Bob from Hants County, who has a question regarding the budget and seniors. Bob, if you'd like to go ahead with your question.
Good evening, Mr. Premier.
Hey, Bob.
You got a job I wouldn't want. But anyway, on the budget, I was kind of going through it today, and is there anything in there for help for seniors?
Well, thank you, Bob, and you're not the first person to tell me that. My dad used to say to me that just remember you won't be able to please everyone, and I used to say to him, well, one or two would be nice, Dad, but no, I'm just kidding. It's a privilege to be the Premier, and certainly we live in a great province, and we're not without our challenges, and there are definitely some tough situations and tough days, but I'm just honored to have the opportunity to contribute to the province. So a couple of things for seniors. Of course, the Seniors Care Grant will continue. That was an innovative grant program that Minister Adams launched here in Nova Scotia. We'll continue that program. I know that's helping seniors. I hear from them. So that program is extended. That will continue. There's also the Capable program, and this program is designed to really to help seniors to stay in their homes longer, and really what it does is it pairs seniors up with community members, registered nurses, maybe occupational therapists. It really just is a way to support those seniors that are trying to stay in their homes longer. So always top of mind, caring for our seniors, doing what we can for our seniors, for those who built our province and paved the road for us, for sure. We're very focused and honestly always looking for ways to do more. We do what we can. We always wish we could do a little bit more. That's the nature of governing. But we definitely there's a few items in there that help seniors today, and I guess the other thing that I would be remiss if I didn't mention, and just in the context of seniors, but housing in general, and just being a caring community is our significant investment in long-term care. As a province, we're building over 5,700 long-term care units, so they'll be there when and if people need them. That's a significant investment and a big peace of mind for many seniors that I talk to for when and if they need it, but also their family members. So the Seniors Care Grant, the Capable program, the long-term care beds, and other initiatives that we can do, we will do. But I certainly appreciate your interest in the budget itself and for reaching out tonight. I really appreciate that, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. Some really great conversations today. That is all the time we have together. But before we end things, we will go back to our Premier for some final words.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for participating tonight. As we said, these are very helpful to me as Premier, to our government, to hear directly from you what's on your minds, and I really appreciate it. So I know a bunch of people would have been in line to ask a question that didn't get to. I apologize for that, and I know there'd be some that probably emailed one in. So we'll look through those for sure and respond. So thank you for participating, and just before we leave, I do want to offer my deepest condolences to the Mulroney family. We've just learned of the passing of the former Prime Minister, and he was an incredible person who left quite an impact on our country, but on me personally. He was an incredible mentor to me. I'll never forget his kindness to me and his insight on issues. I would certainly call him a dear friend, and I'll miss him tremendously. So I never was shy about calling him for advice, and he was always there to answer the call. He loved this country, but he really had a soft spot for Nova Scotia. So sincere condolences to the Mulroney family. But thanks for everyone joining us tonight. And we'll look forward to continuing the discussion. And this is a day we can be proud of as we table a budget that helps us build up Nova Scotia as we move forward into the future. But thanks for joining us. Have a great night, everyone.